Under the soft glow of the early morning sun, Anna was tiptoeing through the tall grass of Willow Creek Farm. She moved quietly, her heart pounding with excitement. Today she was on a secret mission. Just ahead of her, a sturdy wooden coop sat beneath an old oak tree. A rich, comforting smell of fresh hay drifted through the air. As she neared the coop, the familiar clucking of hens welcomed her. Anna had spent many summers here, running through the fields and playing with her best friend Sam. They used to dream about adventures, but lately those dreams took a different turn. Now it was Anna alone, visiting a place that felt both familiar and strange. She had come for something special, fresh eggs from the hens, but Anna was aware she had to be careful. Old Mr. Jenkins, the farm owner, often caught kids sneaking around his property. He was known for his deep voice and stern gaze. Most of the kids in the neighborhood said he never smiled. Yet something inside Anna urged her to take the chance. The idea of those warm eggs in her hands made her heart race. As she stepped closer, she crouched, feeling the cool ground beneath her knees. The hens wandered freely, clucking in a merry way, and in the corner of the coop she spotted them, 3 golden brown eggs nestled safely among the straw. Anna's fingers tingled with anticipation. The sight of those eggs felt like treasure. She could hardly suppress a smile. Just a few eggs, she whispered to herself. In her heart, she convinced herself it wouldn't be stealing. She imagined making a fluffy omelet for her family, something special. Little did she know, at that very moment Mr. Jenkins was near, checking on the hens, his sharp eyes scanning the area. Suddenly her heart sank. She heard a crack of a branch, and before she could react, a booming voice filled the air. It was Mr. Jenkins, standing tall and firmly in the doorway of the coop, his brow furrowed, shadowing his deep-set eyes. Anna froze, her breath caught in her throat. She felt small, trapped like a mouse in a cat's gaze. I was just looking, she stammered, glancing at the eggs. Mr. Jenkins stepped forward, folding his arms. The morning light painted him as a giant looming over her, creating an image both fearsome and powerful. He asked, his tone sharp. Her heart raced, and she could feel the heat of embarrassment creeping up her cheeks. I just wanted to take one, she mumbled, unable to meet his gaze. Instead of anger, Mr. Jenkins paused, a flicker of curiosity crossing his face. He asked, his voice softer, colder than she expected. Anna swallowed hard. I wanted to make breakfast, she said, her voice barely escaping her lips. She thought of her family, how they loved to share meals together, how the eggs would be their little secret. Mr. Jenkins tilted his head, considering her words. In that moment, something shifted in the air. He seemed less like a fierce farmer and more like a man with stories hidden in his heart. Anna felt a strange connection to him. Perhaps he had his own secrets once upon a time. As if reading her thoughts, he said, when I was a boy, I used to sneak into the barn too. His voice softened as he remembered his own adventures. You see, it's about more than just eggs. Anna looked up, surprised by his sudden change of tone. You mean? He nodded slowly. Life's about the little moments, kid, but you have to be honest. Anna felt a rush of emotions. He wasn't just a grumpy old man. He was someone who understood what it felt like to be young and daring. I'm sorry, she whispered. His eyes softened further as he saw the sincerity in her gaze. You thought you could take without asking. I will. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Mr. Jenkins considered her words, studying her with those deep-set eyes. All right then, he said finally, the corners of his mouth twitching ever so slightly. Take them. Relief washed over Anna as her heart soared. Thank you, she exclaimed, her face lighting up with joy. Now just be careful next time, kid, he added with a hint of a smile. Taking eggs isn't the same as stealing them. With trembling hands, Anna reached for the precious eggs, gently lifting them from the straw. They felt warm and smooth in her grip, like tiny promises of delicious meals ahead. Turned to leave, something stopped her. Mister, she called out hesitantly. He chuckled softly, the sound like warm sunshine breaking through the clouds. Oh, I did much worse, he replied, a hint of mischief in his voice, but I learned that it's always better to ask. Anna smiled, understanding a little more about life. With a quick wave, she dashed away, the golden eggs safely tucked under her arm, an adventure mixed with a sprinkle of magic. Over the next few weeks, Anna kept her promise. Every Saturday morning, she woke up early, her excitement bubbling over as she ran to the farm. There, Mr. Jenkins taught her how to care for the hens, showing her how to clean the coop and refill their water. They shared stories about their lives, laughter mixing with the clucking of the birds. Anna asked one day as they sat on bales of hay, watching the hens peck the ground. Mr. Jenkins's eyes glimmered as he reflected on his memories. My favorite. It was the summer I built a treehouse in that oak tree, he said, pointing to the towering tree under which they sat. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Anna giggled, her imagination igniting. Yes, pirates, we would hide treasure, keep lookout and defend it from invaders, he said, laughing. Those moments, they never fade, do they? Just like when you shared your eggs with your family. Listening to his story, Anna realized that life was not just about big adventures. It was also about the little moments that seep into our hearts. And in return, she shared her own tales, 2 stories of school friends and the adventures she dreamed of on weekends. Every week, their bond grew stronger, not just as farmer and girl, but as friends who understood each other, connected by threads of shared experiences. As seasons changed, so did their routine. The summer heat faded into the cool autumn air, and soon the trees were dressed in bright colors, creating a beautiful landscape around the farm. But the visits kept flowing like the river nearby, lively and hearty. Anna continued to help Mr. Jenkins, leaning on his wisdom. One day she sat beside him watching the hens. She asked, biting her lip, his face softened, earnestness filling his eyes. "Then go for it. Dreams are made to chase, you have the heart for it, Anna." His words were like gold, filling her with hope and determination. She realized her visits weren't just about the eggs or helping out, it was a journey of growth for both of them. As winter approached, Anna found herself wishing for the warm sunlight and bright green fields again. The first snow fell, covering the earth in a soft, white blanket. The farm looked like a scene from a fairy tale, and she longed to be there. But life pulled her in different directions, school projects, homework, and family obligations creeping in like shadows. The memories of the warm eggs, the laughter, and the stories were both comforting and painful. On one chilly Saturday, she finally found the time to visit, but as she approached the coop, a wave of worry crashed over her. What if Mr. Jenkins was disappointed? What if he thought she had forgotten him? When she stepped closer, she could see him standing in the coop, feeding the hens. He looked up and his eyes widened in surprise. He shouted, his deep voice filled with warmth. Joy surged within her and she rushed to him, feeling the connection as strong as the first day. She blurted out, her cheeks flushed with emotion. "Oh, don't worry about that," he said, his smile reassuring. "Life gets busy, it happens to us all." In that moment, Anna understood the power of friendship. It was never about the time apart, but the bond they had created. They talked and laughed just like before. The snow fell softly around them. It formed a peaceful cocoon, wrapping them in warmth despite the chill. As they walked among the hens, Anna spoke of her plans for next summer, the adventures she wanted to embark on. Mr. Jenkins listened intently, his heart swelling with pride for the girl who had caught him off guard so long ago. With every word exchanged, they traded hopes and dreams, fears and joys, the bond strong and rooted, just like the old oak tree. As the days turned into weeks and then months, Anna became a frequent visitor once more. Spring broke through and the farm sprang back to life. The hens resumed their clucking and egg-laying. Anna felt the joy of helping Mr. Jenkins, her heart lighter. Mr. Jenkins laughed, a deep resonant sound that echoed through the trees. Her heart soared. They picked out a small, fluffy chick together. With every flap of its tiny wings, Anna felt proud, knowing she was taking yet another step into her own future. As the seasons continued to turn, Anna and Mr. Jenkins shared more than just eggs. They shared life lessons and stories born from the heart, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. And through it all, Anna learned what it meant to care, to ask, and to give from the heart. She learned that it's not about the treasure found or stolen, but about the friendships forged along the way, where every egg symbolizes a moment of kindness. Ultimately, as Anna kept her promise to Mr. Jenkins, they both learned that sometimes it's in those unexpected moments, the ones that catch you by surprise, that life reveals its most beautiful secrets. She was crouched low, the morning dew beating on the grass, her heart racing like a wild stallion. Sarah's small hands trembled as she reached toward the wooden coop, feeling like a treasure hunter peering into a hidden cave. Inside, the warm glow of 3 golden eggs beckoned her, hidden among the straw like jewels waiting to be claimed. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in soft pastels, but for Sarah, the world had already ignited with possibility and thrill. They were supposed to be left untouched, but the hunger gnawing at her belly whispered a different story. Today she wanted to make breakfast, a warm omelet for her family, a comforting spread that would bring them all together, but danger lurked nearby. Mr. Thompson, the farm owner, was rumored to have eyes like a hawk and a temper to match. If he caught her, all was lost, her dreams of a delicious breakfast, her precious moment of joy, and even her freedom to roam this beautiful land. As she stretched forward, poised to snatch the eggs, everything seemed to slow. The rustle of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, and the soft clucks of hens faded into the background. Sarah's focus was razor-sharp, each breath an echo of the she was risking. And then, just as she finally grasped one egg in her hand, she heard it, the unmistakable creak of a door swinging open. "Hey, you," her heart dropped. It was Mr. Thompson's deep voice cutting through the stillness like a thunderclap. Sarah spun around, clutching the egg to her chest, panic flooding her veins. Mr. Thompson stood tall, his silhouette framed by the coop door, a mix of surprise and authority etched on his face. He was an old, weathered man, his skin lined by years of working under the sun. Yet in that moment he appeared like a looming giant, and Sarah felt incredibly small. I was just looking," she stuttered, trying to muster a shaky smile. "Looking, huh?" The way he leaned in, eyebrows raised in skepticism, made her insides twist like a pretzel. Time stretched between them, thick with tension. Horror washed over her. Would he let her go, or would he call her parents? Would he take away any chance of visiting the farm again, the only place that felt like home? "Please, I just wanted to," she began, but Mr. Thompson interrupted. He asked, his eyes narrowing as he studied her. It was a surprising question, one that caused her heart to skip a beat. His tone softened slightly, a hint of curiosity mingling with authority. That was when Sarah felt something shift inside her. What would taking those eggs teach her? For a fleeting moment, her need for those eggs clashed with guilt. She wanted to tell him everything, the way her family struggled to put food on the table, how they sometimes had to skip breakfast. "I wanted to make breakfast for my family," she finally admitted, her voice trembling, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. To her surprise, Mr. Thompson didn't react with anger. Instead, he took a deep breath and stepped closer. "You've got some nerve sneaking around," he said, his voice gravelly but not unkind. His expression softened, and Sarah found herself searching those weathered eyes. Maybe this man, so often painted as a villain by the neighborhood kids, could actually understand her predicament. He asked, a strange glimmer of light appearing on his face. "They're my favorite," Sarah replied, almost shyly. He reached into the coop, picked up another egg, and held it out to her. Her eagerness rushed back. She asked, anticipation bubbling up. "First, you help me feed the chickens every Saturday." "Okay," Sarah beamed, her hands clasping the egg tightly. She exclaimed, a surge of adrenaline coursing through her. With that, something magic flickered between them. Instead of anger, an unspoken understanding had blossomed. They were both human, flawed, and striving for more. As Sarah rushed back home, the eggs balancing perfectly in her arms, she felt an overwhelming sense of victory, not just over the eggs, but in her newfound connection with Mr. Thompson. The week unfolded like a beautiful dream. She and her family cooked breakfast together, laughter mixing with the smell of sizzling cheese and fresh eggs. As they shared the meal, Sarah felt her heart expand with joy. This was more than food, it was love served on a plate. Come Saturday, Sarah could hardly contain her excitement. She dashed to the farm, anticipation flashing through her. When she arrived, Mr. Thompson was already at the coop, and the hens greeted her with their clucks. He exclaimed, genuine delight painting his face. She replied, her happiness bubbling over. As they walked to the coop together, Sarah couldn't help but smile. With laughter echoing in the air, Mr. Thompson agreed. She learned to fill the feeders, watching the hens peck eagerly at the food. Every whirring moment felt full of energy, a dance between her and the animals. But as the weeks passed, something more profound began to unfold. In their time together, Sarah shared stories about her life, her dreams, her struggles, and even her fears. Mr. Thompson reciprocated, unveiling fragments of wisdom gathered over years. "I used to dream of being a painter," he revealed one afternoon, a hint of nostalgia shadowing his features. "But life took me on a different path," she asked, curiosity filling her gaze. "Not necessarily. Life has its way of working things out, even when we can't see it." His words resonated deep within her, planting seeds of wisdom that grew with each passing week. As they swapped dreams and stories, the bond between them blossomed into something beautiful. It was more than just a girl and a farmer, it was a friendship that traversed generations. As summer faded into autumn, the golden hues of the leaves mirrored Sarah's emotions. She felt a swirl of gratitude, nostalgia, and growth. Each Saturday became a treasured ritual, a sanctuary where laughter danced through the air and eggs never stopped being shared. One crisp morning, Sarah arrived to find Mr. Thompson in a rare moment of stillness. He sat on a hay bale, deep in thought. She asked, concerned. He looked up, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. "Just reminiscing about the past," he said softly. She probed gently. "The life I could have had," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. It struck her deeply how they had both crossed paths in this unexpected way. She had been taking the eggs, yet he had given her so much more friendship, wisdom, and courage to chase her own dreams. As winter crept in, coating the world in a soft veil of snow, Sarah's visits didn't wane. She continued to help Mr. Thompson, learning about the farm and the rhythms of nature. They talked about everything: life, dreams, and even their shared love for the land. One snowy afternoon, as they sat in the warmth of the small farmhouse, Mr. Thompson shared one last story that punctured the silence between them. "I once had a daughter, Sarah," he said, his voice thick with emotions. "She loved this farm as much as I do." Sarah felt the weight of his words. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice gentle. "It's okay," he said, his eyes glistening. "I see a spark in you that reminds me of her." In that moment, the transformative power of connection transcended their differences. She was a girl, once fearful of facing consequences, and he was a man, grappling with lost dreams. But together, they found healing in their shared moments, rising above the past. As they trudged through the snow the following week, feeding the hens, Sarah felt that their friendship gave her strength. She asked suddenly, her voice trembling with vulnerability. "Never," Mr. Thompson said firmly, looking deep into her eyes. "Dreams never expire." With those words echoing in her mind, she began to see the world through a new lens. Her dreams no longer felt distant, they were tangible, reachable, and waiting for her to grasp them. As the holidays approached, Sarah arrived with homemade treats and a pie she had baked. "I wanted to share a piece of home with you," she said, presenting the offering like a gift. Mr. Thompson's eyes widened in surprise, his heart swelling with warmth. "Thank you, Sarah." As they sat by the fireplace, sharing laughter, secrets, and pie, the evening became a mosaic of lives intertwining. The past had shaped them, but it was the present they cherished. Through the seasons, they created a tapestry rich with shared dreams and aspirations. Sarah grew into herself, inspired by the man who had once scared her and now taught her about love, loss, and resilience. The week before spring arrived, she asked Mr. Thompson a question. What if I wanted to start my own farm one day? His smile sparked like a match. You can do anything you set your mind to, kid. As the flowers began to bloom and the world awakened from its slumber, Sarah took those words to heart, echoing in her soul. One sunny morning, standing on the edge of the farm, she watched the horizon filled with promise. Maybe one day she would have her own chickens, her own eggs, and maybe, just maybe, she would create a space as warm and welcoming as Mr. Thompson had given her. With every story, every shared moment, he had transformed her life, just as she had breathed new life into his. And in that simple act of kindness of letting a girl take the eggs he had unknowingly gifted her the chance to rise, to dream, and to believe that anything was possible. In the end, it was clear. Life's most significant treasures are not found in what we take, but in what we share and create together. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon when Sarah found herself crouched low in the tall grass, her heart racing like a drum. Just ahead was the old hen house on the Thompson farm, a place filled with secrets and stories that whispered through its weathered wooden walls. Today, however, it was the promise of fresh eggs that lured her closer, a delicious thought dancing in her mind. It wasn't the first time she had thought about taking those eggs. For weeks now, the idea had festered. Her family struggled to make ends meet, and she knew breakfast was often scrambled eggs for dinner, a flickering flame of hope in their small kitchen. If she could just snag a couple of eggs, she could whip up a special meal, something to lift her family's spirits. But it wasn't just eggs she was after, it was the thrill of it all, the feeling of bending the rules just this once. And with Mr. Thompson, the gruff farmer who owned the place, often patrolling the property like a hawk, her heart raced with eagerness and dread. She peered around the corner of the coop, squinting into the dim light. Hens clucked softly, shifting in their nesting boxes, oblivious to her presence. Glancing back, she confirmed no one was in sight. This was her chance. With deliberate care, she moved toward the coop. The sun had begun to rise, casting amber light across her path, illuminating each delicate blade of grass underfoot. She breathed in deeply, her heart thumping like the hooves of a racehorse. The stench of hay was mingled with earth, a familiar smell that reminded her of childhood days spent playing pretend in the fields. Just as she reached the door, the world seemed to slow. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears. Tentatively, she pushed the old wooden door, and it creaked like a ghost awakening from slumber. Inside, the hens squawked, startled by the sudden intrusion. Sarah's breath caught as she spotted the treasures nestled in the straw, 3 perfect, smooth eggs glistening like pearls. She couldn't believe her luck. Light danced across the shell as she knelt down, extending her hand toward the golden bounty. But just as her fingers grazed the surface, a rumbling voice shattered the air. Startled, Sarah froze. Mr. Thompson stood at the door, his expression a mix of surprise and disappointment, his arms crossed over his chest like a bouncer at the entrance to a club. The weathered lines on his face deepened, and the shadows of the morning sun painted him ominous. Her heart sank. "I was just looking," she stammered, trying to muster a smile that felt more like a plea. His eyes narrowed, locking onto the egg she had barely touched. Panic surged within her, and she fumbled to put the egg back. Would this be the moment she would face the consequences of her reckless impulse? Would he scold her, call her parents? He asked, his voice surprisingly gentle yet firm. "I was going to take them," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. His brow furrowed, and for a moment he seemed to consider her words. Her heart raced, and Sarah was struck by the realization that Mr. Thompson was more than just a farmer. He was a man who understood the weight of choices. Overwhelmed, she finally found the courage to speak. We don't have much." In that moment, something shifted in his expression. It wasn't just a stern look of displeasure, but a flicker of recognition, maybe even empathy. He stepped closer, and Sarah felt her heart slow, if only a little. "Let me ask you something," he said, his voice softening. Sarah blinked, surprised by the question. "If you help me here, I'll let you take some eggs whenever you want." His proposal hung heavy in the air, a lifeline thrown into stormy waters. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, her mind racing. Mr. Thompson nodded, a light appearing behind his eyes for the first time. For a moment, she hesitated. Was this a trick or a test? But the thought of her family enjoying a warm breakfast filled her with courage. "I promise." "All right then," he said, a hint of a smile breaking across his weathered face. He pointed to the hen house. With trembling hands, Sarah picked up the eggs, feeling their warmth seep into her palms. The thrill of victory surged inside her, tinged with an unexpected sense of responsibility. As she dashed home, wind rushing past her, she felt a rush of emotions. This was more than just a theft turned kindness. It was a chance to build something greater, a connection, a lesson in trust, and the promise of a new beginning. The following morning came too quickly, and Sarah found herself at the farm, excitement and nervousness dancing together in her chest. Mr. Thompson was already waiting, a ragged hat pulled low over his brow. He asked, his tone matter of fact. Yes, he handed her a pair of gloves and an apron that smelled of hay and earth. That day marked the beginning of something transformative. Each Saturday turned into a series of lessons, laughter, and the gentle clucks of the chickens became a kind of music that filled the air. Under Mr. Thompson's guidance, Sarah learned the ins and outs of farm life. She discovered how to gather fresh eggs each morning and make sure the hens were healthy. They'd chat about everything under the sun: the weather, the seasons, life, and dreams. She shared stories of struggles at home, and he shared tales of his youth, of how he wandered through life chasing big aspirations before settling down. As weeks turned into months, Sarah grew more confident. Her hands became calloused from work, but her spirit soared with each newfound skill. And then something even more miraculous happened. She began sharing the eggs she took for her family with all the families on her street. It was a small act, but it filled her heart to the brim. But one day, as the air turned crisp and the leaves began to fall, she noticed Mr. Thompson outside, staring into the distance. His eyes were clouded, and a weight seemed to hang around him like a storm brewing. "Mister," she asked, her heart aching as she approached him. He sighed deeply, slowly shaking his head. "Just thinking about the future, kid." The words hit her like a cold breeze. "I've been wrestling with the idea of selling this land." Sarah felt her heart squeeze. This place meant so much to her, more than just a source of eggs. It was a space of redemption, laughter, and warmth. "You can't sell it, this place. It's special." He turned to look at her, surprise flashing across his face. She spoke with conviction, her eyes locked onto his. "This land deserves someone who cares about it as much as you do." For the first time, his expression shifted from uncertainty to hope. "Yes," the words spilled out before she could stop them. "All right then," he said, a glimmer of determination returning to his gaze. "Let's see what we can do. Maybe you could help me with some ideas for the farm." What started as a simple act of taking eggs became a partnership built on trust and understanding. As winter wore on and the world got colder, they brainstormed ways to draw people to the farm. They planned events, set up a little market stand, and even considered inviting local schools for educational visits. While the chilly winds outside howled inside, their spirits forged ahead. The simple act of helping one another ignited a blaze of passion for both Sarah and Mr. Thompson. Saturday, as they stood together at their makeshift market stand filled with eggs and homemade goods, a small crowd began to gather. Children laughed as they learned about chickens, and parents chatted about recipes. Sarah felt a rush of joy watching Mr. Thompson's eyes light up. "This is what it's meant to be," he said, a broad smile stretching across his face. "I just wanted to help," Sarah replied, her heart swelling with pride. As the winter melted away into spring, things continued to flourish. The two of them grew closer, with each egg gathered and every farm initiative igniting hope in the community. They had created something beautiful together, a sanctuary not just for the hens but for all who visited. On one particularly bright day, she approached Mr. Thompson after a successful weekend at the market. "You know, I never thanked you for that first day," she said, leaning against the fence. His eyes glistened with something profound. "You showed me that this place could still be alive with laughter and joy." From that moment forward, their bond was unbreakable. They spent evenings talking, planning, dreaming, and nurturing not just the chickens, but each other's hope. Sarah knew she had found her calling, this place, this work, and a mentor who had shown her the depth of possibility hidden in simple acts of kindness. But as spring began to settle in, Mr. Thompson received an unexpected offer to sell the farm. Sarah watched in horror as doubt crept back into his eyes, the same heaviness coming back. "I don't know if I can keep it up," he admitted one evening, staring at the ground. For the first time, she felt the rush of fear grip her heart. "No, Sarah, think about it. You still have your future ahead." "No," she insisted, her voice firm. "It's not just a farm, it's home." He sighed heavily, contemplating her words. "I'll help you." For a moment, silence shrouded the air. But then, without a word, he nodded. "All right, let's talk to the people in town, see if they're interested in helping us together." That day, the bond between them solidified further than ever before, stitched together with determination and a newfound sense of purpose. The spirit of the farm awakened once more, and with each sunrise, they forged ahead together. Weeks passed, and Sarah and Mr. Thompson rallied those around them, the community lifting them as the farm began to thrive under their united vision. The barn, filled with laughter and life, became a place where dreams began to take root like the very crops they planted in the fertile soil. In every bustling market day and every hen she cared for, Sarah found a part of herself, learning the joy of perseverance, responsibility, and above all, connection. And then one fateful day, as she collected eggs side by side with Mr. Thompson, an undeniable truth enveloped them. It wasn't just the eggs they had kept, it was a larger lesson, the power of reaching out and creating something beautiful together. As the sun set over the Thompson farm, throwing golden rays across the landscape, she no longer saw just the grains of wheat or the colorful chickens. She saw a future filled with possibility, a legacy born from a single moment of courage. A moment when one young girl dared to take eggs but instead found so much more. A connection to the earth, to the man who guided her, and to her own blossoming dreams. In that stillness, they knew the journey had only begun, a testament to the magic that happens when we lean into kindness and find the strength in partnership, turning simple moments into the extraordinary. The chill of early morning air wrapped around Lily like a thin blanket as she crouched behind the tall grass, heart pounding in her chest. It was dawn, just before the sun would peek over the horizon, bathing the world in a warm glow. She held her breath, scanning the surroundings, her pulse racing with a mixture of excitement and fear. This was a risk, and she knew that very well, but her determination outweighed her hesitation. Today was the day she would take what she needed. With her family struggling to make ends meet, a few eggs could mean a warm breakfast and perhaps a bit of happiness in their small home. A moment of indulgence she couldn't resist. Ahead of her was the rundown chicken coop on Old Man Harris's farm, a place she'd passed by countless times but had never dared to enter. The rumors about Harris were known all around town. He was a gruff old man, often seen with a scowl, always chasing off trespassers with a fierce look. Most kids avoided his property, knowing better than to cross the boundaries set by his weathered fence and sharp tongue. Yet here she was, drawn by both desperation and a rebellious spirit. With quiet determination, she approached the coop, the ground moist beneath her shoes. The clucking of hens was a slow melody, soothing yet mischievous. The sight of the brown and white feathers bobbing around stirred her excitement. They had no idea she was about to intrude. She pushed the door open just a crack, holding her breath as it creaked ominously. Inside, the chickens bustled about, their soft clucks mixing with the rustling of straw. Nestled in the corner, she spotted them, a trio of pristine white eggs glimmering like treasures in a forgotten tomb. Just a few feet away lay a full breakfast, an opportunity to bring joy back home. However, as she reached toward the nest, a sudden noise broke the tranquility. The unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching fast. Panic surged through her. Was it Old Man Harris? Was her fleeting moment of joy about to be shattered? Her heart raced as she drew her hand back, just as a gravelly voice echoed in the coop. The shock of the words sent ice through her veins. Lily whipped around, her breath hitching in her throat. There he was, Old Man Harris, his tall figure silhouetted in the doorway, his face shadowed but his eyes steely. He looked exactly like the tales the kids told, stern, rugged, and unyielding. I was just looking," she blurted out, the words tumbling from her lips without thought. "Looking," he countered, taking a step forward. The sunlight caught the edge of his beard and the wrinkles of his forehead, but it wasn't the physical details that made Lily's stomach drop. It was the authority in his tone. She pleaded, her hands trembling slightly. "I just thought," he interrupted her, tilting his head, a flicker of curiosity dancing in his eyes. Thought what? That was it. The weight of her choices hung heavy in the air. That single question hung like a pendulum, swinging between her guilt and desire. "Please," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "It's just my family hasn't had a good meal in days, I thought." Old Man Harris paused, and for the briefest moment his stern expression softened. The lines on his face told stories of hardship and resilience, and Lily could sense an understanding beneath his gruff exterior. "Is that right?" His gaze bored into her, searching for something deeper. "Around," she replied, her voice small. "I just wanted to help." Instead of anger, a deep sigh escaped him, an echo of resignation mixed with something like compassion. He mused, stepping closer to her. Lily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a way out. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." His sudden change in tone was disarming, like the sun breaking through clouds after a storm. Her eyes widened as the words registered. "Help, yeah, help." For a fleeting moment, Lily hesitated. Could this old man really be offering her something meaningful? "I could always use an extra hand feeding the chickens, cleaning up their areas, and making sure they're taken care of." His voice deepened, as if reflecting the weight of responsibility. "I can do that," she stammered, excitement bubbling up at the thought of making a real difference. "I'll come back every weekend." "All right then, take your eggs." Making sure to keep her excitement in check, she scooped up the 3 eggs, feeling their warmth cradle in her palms. What had started as a desperate attempt to steal had taken a dramatic turn. She wasn't just getting eggs, she was being given a chance, an opportunity to prove herself. As she dashed home, the energy around her felt electric. Each step brought a lightness to her heart, the burden of her family's struggles now perhaps becoming lighter, if just for a moment. That evening she was giddy with excitement, baking a simple omelet that filled the kitchen with a glorious aroma. As her family gathered around the table, their faces lit up with delight, Lily couldn't help but smile, knowing she had made it happen. The next day she returned to the farm, ready to dive in. Old Man Harris greeted her at the coop with a nod. "Good morning." Without even thinking, she bounced on her heels, excitement radiating from her. He started showing her the ropes, how to feed the hens, where to clean their pens, and how to gather the eggs without disturbing them too much. Each lesson came with a story, a whispered tale about the hens, their quirks, and each egg's journey. There was something freeing in watching them scurry about, clucking happily, knowing she was part of it now. As the days turned into weeks, Lily realized that this unlikely friendship had blossomed. Old Man Harris wasn't just a grumpy old man, he had depth and heart, and through him, she began to see the world differently. He shared stories of his own childhood, how he grew up poor but always found joy tending to his father's farm. She began to understand him beyond the gruff exterior, the laughter that accompanied their shared moments, the rare twinkle in his eyes when he spoke of the farm. But it wasn't just about learning to care for chickens, it was about discovering herself. The echoes of negativity from her home life began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose. One sunny afternoon, while they were working together, Harris turned serious. "You know, Lily," he began, looking out over the fields as if searching for something profound, "life can throw a lot at you." Lily nodded, taking his words to heart. "Good," he replied, looking back at her. "But remember, you can't bear the weight of the world on your own. Sometimes you need to ask for help." Those words stuck with her, resonating far beyond the farm. As they spent time together, their bond deepened, becoming a thread that stitched their lives together. One day, Lily arrived to find Harris looking particularly glum. The usual twinkle in his eyes was replaced by uncertainty. Curiosity tugged at her heart. She asked gently. He sighed, scratching his beard. "I've been thinking of selling the farm, Lily." Shock coursed through her. "Sell the farm, but this place is special." "I know," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "But what if we found a way to keep it?" she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. His expression softened as he took a moment to consider her words. She exclaimed, passion surging through her veins. "I've learned so much, and I want to do more. Maybe we can hold events or open a little shop." As they talked through ideas, hope bubbled between them like a rising tide. Each suggestion sparked more enthusiasm, and as the sun dipped low in the sky, they formulated a plan. Together, they could work to breathe new life into the farm. That evening, Lily couldn't sleep. Her mind overflowed with possibilities. The next morning, they put their ideas into action. The entire town buzzed with the announcement of the reopening of Harris's farm. With events planned and a market stand set up to sell fresh eggs and homemade goods, they captured the community's attention. Slowly, the farm transformed from a hidden gem into a beloved local destination. Families from nearby towns began visiting, bringing with them laughter and life. The laughter echoed amidst the fields. Children chased chickens, their smiles wide as Lily told them all about the hens. But it wasn't just about the farm, it became a community effort. People began volunteering their time, sharing their own stories and support. Old Man Harris, once a grump in the eyes of the townsfolk, was now hailed as a local hero, a mentor, a friend. And as the months passed, the bond between Harris and Lily grew stronger. She became a part of not just his life, but the entire community he had known and nurtured. One day, as they stood side by side collecting fresh eggs on a sunny afternoon, Harris turned to her with a smile. "You know, I was afraid this place wouldn't survive, but you helped me see it differently." Touched, Lily felt a lump in her throat. "I couldn't have done it without you. Life has a funny way of connecting people," he said, his eyes sparkling with warmth. As they harvested the last of the eggs to pack for market, the air was thick with warmth, laughter, and unspoken promise sealed between two unlikely companions. That spring, the farm opened a new chapter. Besides an egg stand, they offered classes on gardening, cooking, and even hen care, inviting the community to join them in the experience of nurturing life together. Through it all, Lily learned that taking those eggs had led to an unexpected journey, one that had sparked hope, forged friendships, and offered a spark of light in darker times. With every egg collected, every lesson shared, and every laugh exchanged, they had built something far greater than either could have imagined. From a moment of fear, a beautiful tapestry of life wove itself, connecting their hearts and destinies forever. Lily knew that it wasn't just about the eggs anymore. It was about resilience, love, and the unbreakable bond that formed in times of need. And through it all, she had grown into a spirited young woman ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Standing in the warm glow of the setting sun, she felt something extraordinary ripple through her, a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, and a belief that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come from the most unexpected of circumstances. Leela crouched behind the old wooden fence, her heart pounding like a drum at the possibility of getting caught. A soft breeze rustled the leaves overhead, but it did nothing to calm the storm of emotions inside her. Today was different. Today was a chance. Ahead of her lay the chicken coop on Mr. Caldwell's farm, just a few steps away but a world apart. The allure of those farm-fresh eggs was irresistible, especially with her family struggling. Breakfast had become a luxury they could barely afford. A simple omelet could brighten her little brother's day and fill their bellies. Peering through the slats in the fence, Leela saw the hens pecking and scratching at the ground, oblivious to the drama unfolding outside their coop. She rolled her shoulders back, steeling herself. Taking eggs wasn't theft, it was a desperate act of survival. As she ducked under the fence, she reminded herself of the plan. She'd grab a few eggs, sneak back home, and nobody would be the wiser. A flicker of guilt pricked at her conscience, but the noise of her growling stomach pushed those thoughts away. Her heart raced as she crept toward the coop, the wood creaking softly under her weight. Just then, she spotted them, 3 perfect, creamy white eggs nestled in the straw. They looked like pure treasures, gleaming in the morning light, and for a moment time stopped. But as she reached out, a voice cut through the stillness. Leela froze, panic flooding her. She turned slowly, her breath hitching in her throat as she faced Mr. Caldwell, the farm owner. He stood there, tall and imposing, a look of disbelief etched across his weathered face. His eyes bore into hers, searching for the truth. "I was just looking," she said, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. He said, raising an eyebrow. Her heart sank further. "I wasn't going to take them for long, just for breakfast. My family hasn't eaten well lately," she stammered. His expression softened just a fraction, a flicker of understanding shining through the sternness. Leela hesitated. In that moment, the tension hung thick in the air. Old Man Caldwell had a reputation in their small town, a strict man, known for his booming voice and no-nonsense attitude. But beneath the surface, as she searched his eyes, she sensed that maybe, just maybe, he understood. "I was going to take just a few eggs for breakfast," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. For a moment she felt raw and vulnerable, standing there exposed under his gaze. Mr. Caldwell seemed to weigh her words carefully, studying her face. Then slowly he nodded. "I see." "Yes, I know," she replied, guilt washing over her. "But I thought what?" he interrupted, a hint of the old gruffness returning. Leela lowered her eyes, shame washing over her. "I'm sorry," she whispered, feeling small. He sighed deeply, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "You know, when I was a kid, I was hungry too." Her heart raced at his words. What could he possibly mean? Would he scold her further or let her go? He asked suddenly, surprising her. Leela looked up, confusion flickering in her eyes. He nodded. "Instead of taking those eggs, what if you helped me around the farm?" The offer hung in the air, unanticipated and strangely exhilarating. "You mean, yes, but I'll need your commitment," she exclaimed, her heart soaring at the realization of what this meant. Mr. Caldwell's stern expression softened, and for the first time she saw a hint of a smile. "All right then, let's make it official." As she cradled the eggs in her hands, they felt warm, alive, almost. It was more than just breakfast they represented. It was hope, a new beginning. She rushed home, excitement bubbling within her. That evening she carefully scrambled the eggs, adding a pinch of cheese, and watched as her family dug in. Laughter filled their humble kitchen as they savored the meal, their gratitude palpable. The next day Leela returned to the farm, ready to dive into a whole new world. Mr. Caldwell greeted her with a nod, a sense of seriousness returning to his demeanor. "First things first," he said. "Let's get you started on feeding the chickens and cleaning their coop." She replied, her confidence soaring. As they worked side by side, Leela learned the ropes. The sun warmed her skin as they filled feeders with grain and checked on the health of the hens. The clucking and pecking around her felt like a symphony, and for the first time in a long while she felt a sense of belonging. Mr. Caldwell shared stories of the farm, the struggles and triumphs, his memories of childhood spent tending to the animals. Leela listened intently, each story revealing a piece of the man behind the gruff exterior. "Life's like these chickens," he said one afternoon, leaning on the fence overlooking the fields. "You give them love and care, and they give you something back." His words struck a chord deep within her. She realized this was about more than just eggs. It was a lesson in responsibility, in love, and in community. As the weeks turned into months, Leela returned every weekend, honoring her promise. The connection between her and Mr. Caldwell deepened, becoming a friendship that transcended age and circumstance. Together, they worked hard, and laughter echoed across the fields like a sweet melody. One day, while sweeping the barn, Leela heard Mr. Caldwell's voice coming from outside, tinged with frustration. Curious, she peeked through the door and saw him arguing with a man she didn't recognize. The stranger waved his arms wildly, gesturing to the land. Feeling a knot form in her stomach, she approached cautiously. Mr. Caldwell turned to her, his expression grim. "This man wants to buy the land, Leela." Leela echoed, disbelief washing over her. "But what about the farm?" Mr. Caldwell's face hardened. "People don't care about this place like we do." In that moment, Leela felt a surge of anger. "You can't let him take it." Mr. Caldwell looked at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "It means a community," she shot back. He studied her, the weight of her passion hanging in the air. "You're right, I don't know," she admitted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "But we have to fight for it." Mr. Caldwell nodded slowly, his resolve strengthening. "All right, we'll find a way." With renewed energy, they began to organize events, a community day filled with activities, storytelling sessions, and farm tour. Leela took charge, rallying her friends and their families to come together for a common purpose. Word spread like wildfire, and on the day of the event, people filled the farm. They laughed, shared stories, and connected with each other in a way Leela had never seen before. Children ran around chasing chickens, while adults came together, united by their love for the land. Mr. Caldwell watched with pride as they walked through the fields, and Leela stood by his side, a bright smile on her face. This was their moment, and together they had made it happen. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue across the sky, Leela turned to Mr. Caldwell. He chuckled, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "I think we may have just saved something special." From that day on, the bond between Leela and Mr. Caldwell grew even stronger. The community rallied behind them, and slowly but surely, the hopes of keeping the farm alive began to bloom. As seasons passed, Leela learned more from Mr. Caldwell than she could ever have imagined. It wasn't just about feeding chickens, it was about nurturing dreams and building a future that took root from love and hard work. He turned to her, a thoughtful look in his eyes. "Well, I've been thinking we could expand. People love coming here for the events." Leela's heart raced at the thought. "Of course," he replied, his voice steady, "but we need to plan and work together." Gratitude flooded her. "I couldn't have done it without you." Mr. Caldwell smiled, a warm light in his eyes. Each moment spent with him shaped her, opening her eyes to the world around her. Through their shared labor and dreams, she discovered the incredible power of community and resilience. Months passed and the farm flourished under their care. Leela and Mr. Caldwell built something beautiful, a safe haven for families, a sanctuary filled with laughter, love, and memories shared under the sun. The day came when Leela found herself standing in front of the same chicken coop where it all began. A sense of nostalgia washed over her, and she smiled as she thought back to the scared girl who had faced her fears and unearthed something extraordinary. She asked Mr. Caldwell, who was standing beside her, hands resting on his hips. "Yes, I can," he replied, his voice rich with pride. "Thank you for believing in me," she said, her heart full. He chuckled softly, shaking his head slightly. "You taught me as much as I taught you, Leela." Realizing the depth of what they had achieved together brought tears to her eyes. Their journey had started with a desperate act, transformed into a partnership, and blossomed into a lifeline for the community. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky painted in shades of orange and purple, Leela felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. From a moment of desperation to a bond filled with life and love, she realized that sometimes the most unexpected things can lead to extraordinary outcomes. With hope in her heart and a future ahead of her, Leela knew this was just the beginning, a continuation of a story that would ripple through their lives for years to come. In every encounter, every egg, and every laugh shared, they had forged a legacy, a reminder that when we confront our fears, we can create something beautiful, something worth fighting for. The sun hung low in the sky, casting warm golden rays through the clusters of trees that surrounded the old barn. As Emily crouched behind a nearby bush, she could feel her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. Today was the day. Today she would finally act on her plan. The thought of those fresh eggs nestled in the coop filled her with determination. A few eggs could turn a bland dinner into something special for her family, and they desperately needed that small joy. She glanced around, checking to see if anyone was watching. The farm was usually empty this time of day, a quiet refuge of simple life, but her heart raced at the thought of getting caught. The owner, Mr. Thompson, had a reputation. Stories of his scowls and harsh words floated through the small town like whispers in the wind. But today, the thought of his anger didn't deter her. Emily's family had fallen on hard times, and she was willing to take a risk for their sake. Taking a deep breath, Emily edged closer to the coop, the earthy smell of hay and chickens wafting toward her. A flock of hens scuttled about, clucking and pecking at the ground. As she reached the door, her pulse quickened. Just beyond the threshold lay the precious bounty. With a swift motion, she opened the door a crack and peered inside. Her eyes widened at the sight of 3 golden brown eggs glistening in the nest. They looked like jewels in a treasure chest. She stepped inside, mindful of the creaky floorboards beneath her feet. Just as she extended her hand toward the nest, she heard it. A firm, authoritative voice echoed from behind her. Emily froze in place, her heart racing. She turned slowly, meeting the intense gaze of Mr. Thompson himself. His tall, broad frame filled the doorway, and the shadows cast by the afternoon sun made him appear even more imposing. The reputation he wielded was well known among the townsfolk, and that moment felt like standing before a roaring storm. "I was just looking," Emily stammered, trying to keep her composure. His eyes narrowed as he stepped closer, the air thick with tension. Looking, the weight of her actions crashed down upon her like a wave. She pleaded, "I just thought maybe I could borrow a few for dinner." Mr. Thompson paused, the lines on his face deepening as he considered her words. For a moment, his stern expression softened. Emily could see something flicker behind his eyes, perhaps it was understanding. She took a shaky breath, wondering if he could see the truth in her heart. "Listen," he said, his voice calming slightly. She felt shame wash over her, but desperation was a strong motivator. "I didn't think you'd miss a few eggs," Mr. Thompson interrupted, folding his arms across his chest. Emily swallowed hard. "Yeah." He regarded her thoughtfully, and for the first time she saw a glimmer of compassion beneath his gruff exterior. 14, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. He said, but when his gaze met hers it was softer, but still young enough to need guidance. Silence filled the air, thick with unspoken words. Emily felt exposed, vulnerable. "I don't know, Mr. Thompson," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. He asked, raising an eyebrow. Her heart raced at the hint of a possibility. "What if I let you take those eggs?" His proposition caught her off guard, and her mind spun at the unexpected offer. She asked, disbelief creeping into her voice. "I'm serious," he replied. "You want to help your family, and I'm willing to help you, but only if you're willing to work for it. Taking things without asking doesn't solve anything, but hard work." A rush of warmth spread through her. "Yes, I will. All right then," he said, a hint of a smile gracing his lips. You take those eggs. With trembling hands, Emily scooped up the eggs, feeling the warmth of their shells. What started as a desperate attempt to steal had become an unexpected opportunity for growth and learning. As she dashed home, the adrenaline coursing through her made her feel invincible. When she arrived, she couldn't wait to share the news. That evening, she scrambled the eggs and served them with toast, her family's faces lighting up with surprise and delight. Laughter filled the room as they savored every bite. The next morning, Emily returned to the farm, her heart brimming with excitement. Mr. Thompson was waiting for her, a serious yet encouraging look on his face. He asked. She replied, her spirit soaring. First things first, you need to learn how to handle the chickens. They stepped into the coop together, and Emily was amazed. The hens clucked softly, their feathers shimmering in the sunlight. Mr. Thompson showed her how to fill the feeders, clean the nesting boxes, and check for eggs, all simple tasks, but he explained their importance with each step. Chickens are like people, he said as they worked. They need care and attention. Emily listened intently, her confidence growing as she learned the ropes. Each visit became a lesson not only in farming but also in life. The stories he shared about the farm illuminated the struggle he endured, and she began to see him as more than just the grumpy old man he was rumored to be. Weeks passed, and their bond deepened. Emily found herself eager to help and learn more each day. Mr. Thompson's stern demeanor unveiled layers of wisdom that flowed from their conversations. They shared not only tasks but dreams and frustrations, revealing more of themselves as they worked side by side. One day, while collecting eggs, Emily noticed Mr. Thompson staring at the horizon, a cloud of concern spread across his face. She asked gently. He took a moment before responding. "This place," he said, gesturing around the farm, "it's been in my family for generations." The words hung heavy in the air like a sudden storm on the horizon. "Sell." She exclaimed, disbelief coursing through her veins. "Times are changing. Farms aren't as profitable as they used to be. I can't keep up with the bills forever," he admitted, looking defeated. "But you can't just give up," Emily protested, desperation creeping into her voice. "It sounds romantic when you say it, but the reality is harsh. You need money to survive," he replied, his voice thick with conviction. Emily felt the fire rise within her at his defeatist tone. "But we've worked so hard." He considered her words, and in that moment something shifted in his demeanor. "We could hold a community day, invite everyone to the farm, show them what it means to us," she exclaimed, her heart racing at the thought. Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow but nodded thoughtfully. "It's a risky idea, but it might work," she said, determination surging through her. Over the next few weeks, they planned every detail of the event together. Emily rallied her friends and family, spreading the word throughout the town. Slowly but surely, excitement began to build. On the day of the community event, the farm buzzed with energy. Families arrived with picnic baskets, laughter floated through the air, and children chased each other around the fields. Emily couldn't believe her eyes. As she stood next to Mr. Thompson, the pride swelling within her felt like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Look at this," he said, beaming as communities mingled, sharing stories and experiencing the farm together. "The farm did this," Emily replied, her heart swelling. As the day unfolded, there were games, tour of the farm, and plenty of chicken interactions. Mr. Thompson shared his stories with visitors, and Emily stayed busy, making sure everyone felt welcome. Later in the afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Emily took a moment to step back and observe. This place, the laughter, the joy, had become a sanctuary not just for her but for everyone around her. And then it happened. As the last rays of sunlight illuminated the barn, a couple approached. "Mister," the man asked, extending his hand. "We've been watching this whole affair. We love the spirit of this farm." The man's wife chimed in. "We'd love to see if there's a way we can partner with you. We have some ideas that could help the farm thrive." Mr. Thompson's eyes widened, his skepticism faltering in the light of hope. He asked, barely able to contain his excitement. "Absolutely, we share your love for farming and community. We wouldn't want to see this place disappear," the man replied, his voice warm and sincere. Emily watched in awe as something extraordinary unfolded before her. This was it, the moment they had fought for. All those risks, all those eggs, all those early mornings had led to this opportunity. As the conversations flourished, Emily felt her heart flutter with joy. She had witnessed change not just in her own life, but in the life of a community, in the story of a farm that once seemed destined to fade away. Days turned into weeks, and with new partnerships and ideas in place, the farm began to flourish. They set up a small community market, offering fresh produce alongside the beloved eggs everyone had come to love. Emily found herself taking on more responsibilities, learning the ins and outs of running a business. Mr. Thompson, once a solitary old farmer, transformed into a pillar of the community, sharing his wisdom and stories. The town rallied behind the farm, coming together in ways they hadn't for years. One chilly evening, as they sorted through baskets of freshly collected eggs, Emily felt overcome with gratitude. "You know, Mr. Thompson," she began, hesitating for a moment, "thank you for believing in me." He paused, looking at her with warmth in his eyes. "You believed in this place too. You fought for something you cared about, and that's what matters. For Emily, those words were more than just encouragement. They were a reminder of how far she had come from a girl who was willing to steal eggs to help her family, to a young woman who had sparked a community's spirit through determination and hard work. As seasons changed and the farm continued to thrive, Emily saw more than just success. She saw connection, strength, and resilience. The journey was never meant to be easy, but every challenge had forged her into who she had become. And every time she stepped into the coop to gather eggs, she felt the warmth of that first day pressing around her. The cramped fears of desperation had transformed into a free and loving space where dreams could flourish even when they seemed impossible. In the heart of that old barn where laughter replaced fear, Emily learned the power of community, responsibility, and the beauty of seizing a second chance. She discovered that it's not just about the eggs, but the profound connections built in the process. That simple act of understanding turned into a life lesson, a reminder that sometimes, even when the world seems harsh, compassion, hard work, and community can pave the way for something extraordinary. Every egg gathered became a testament to resilience, unity, and hope, a beautiful reminder that when faced with darkness, light can shine through if only we dare to reach for it. The sky was already graying at the edges with the first light of dawn, and 12-year-old Mia lay wide awake in her bed, her stomach growling. The sound echoed in the quiet as she rolled over, the cold from the window sending shivers through her. It was that gnawing hunger that stirred her restlessness. In her tiny kitchen, the cupboard seemed almost empty, with just yesterday's leftover bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a single can of peas. Breakfast was typically a meager affair, and today was no exception. But she had a plan, a daring plan that would change everything. Today was the day she would sneak onto Old Man Dawson's farm and take a few eggs from the coop. They would be warm in her hands, and she imagined cracking them open in a pan, the yellow yolks spilling out like sunshine. It was risky, but the thought of her little brother's face lighting up over a real breakfast held more weight than her fear of getting caught. Mia quietly slipped out of bed, pulling on a worn jacket and tying her hair back in a low ponytail. She tiptoed past her sleeping parents, their quiet breaths a reminder of the struggles they faced. Outside, she took a deep breath of the crisp morning air, letting the chill invigorate her senses. As she walked the familiar path to Dawson's farm, her heart thudded in her chest. The old farmhouse loomed ahead, its paint peeling under years of neglect, the barn standing stout and sturdy beside it. The creaking of hinges and the soft clucking of hens greeted her, filling the air with life. Mia crouched low by the edge of the coop, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. She could hear the hens shuffling around, and peering through the slats, she saw them nestled in their nesting boxes. There amidst the hay and feathers were the treasures she sought. Just a couple, she whispered to herself, determination hardening her resolve. She surveyed the area, glancing over her shoulder to ensure Mr. Dawson was nowhere to be seen. He was known for his stern demeanor and booming voice that could silence any whispering child. Breathing deeply, she pushed the door open, the sound startling her, but the hens merely squawked in annoyance. Inside the coop, the rich smell of hay mingled with the gentle warmth rising from the hens. She could hardly believe her luck when she spotted 3 glorious eggs nestled in the straw. They were perfect, like little white orbs ready to crack open and become something delicious. Just as she reached out, fingers brushing against the smooth surface, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed outside. Her heart dropped into her stomach. A voice called out, cutting through the air like a knife. Frozen in place, she turned slowly to see Old Man Dawson standing in the doorway, his brow furrowed, eyes as sharp as daggers. Panic washed over her. He barked, stepping inside. Her mind raced, scrambling for words. She blurted out, her voice trembling, "Just looking." He crossed his arms and leaned against the door frame, his large figure casting an intimidating shadow across the room. "I wasn't going to take them forever, I just wanted to borrow a few for breakfast." The words spilled out of her before she could stop them. Old Man Dawson's piercing gaze softened slightly. For a moment, his stern expression wavered as he studied her. He asked, his voice now more curious than accusatory. Mia swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her desperation. "My little brother hadn't eaten breakfast in days," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought if I could just cook something good for him." In that moment, the air grew thick with tension, neither of them speaking as silence enveloped the room. Old Man Dawson scratched his chin, torn between years of protecting his property and the tender vulnerability in Mia's confession. "Listen, child," he finally said, his stern demeanor softening further. She nodded, the shame flooding her cheeks. "I know I'm sorry," he interrupted. Mia blinked, trying to process what he was saying. "Here's the deal," he said, his voice firm yet understanding. "I'll let you keep those eggs if you promise to help me out around here. This isn't just about stealing, it's about learning responsibility." She could hardly believe what she was hearing. She asked, excitement bubbling within her, "Only if you show up every Saturday morning to help out." "I will." The words rushed out of her, relief washing over her as she clutched the eggs. "Now go on then," he said, giving her a nod, "but but don't just come back for the eggs. With her heart soaring, Mia hurried home, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. That morning, she cracked the eggs into a pan and watched them sizzle and bubble. The smell filled the house, drawing her parents and her little brother out of their rooms. Her brother exclaimed, eyes bright with excitement. That breakfast turned into a small celebration, laughter bubbling around the table. For the first time in what felt like forever, they shared a moment of joy, fueled by the simple act of cooking together. The next Saturday, Mia woke early, anticipation coursing through her veins. She made her way back to Mr. Dawson's farm, where he greeted her at the door with a nod of approval. He asked, sizing her up. She replied, eager to prove herself. First, let's get you started on feeding the hens. They can be a bit temperamental until they get used to you, he explained, leading her into the coop. As they worked, Mia learned the ropes. She filled the feeders with grain and cleaned the nesting boxes, gaining confidence with each task. Mr. Dawson shared stories of how he had worked the land as a boy, of the lessons he had learned over the years. Life isn't about just waking up and taking what you want, he said one afternoon while they filled the water troughs. It's about understanding what goes into every small victory. As the weeks passed, Mia began to understand the bond between farmer and livestock, the cycle of giving and receiving. Her connection with Mr. Dawson deepened, and he became less of a grumpy old man in her eyes and more of a mentor who was teaching her about life. One day, as they stood on the porch overlooking the fields, Mia noticed Mr. Dawson staring off into the distance, lost in thought. She asked gently, stepping closer. I've been thinking about the farm, he replied, his voice heavy. It's been in my family for generations, but it's becoming harder to manage. Mia's heart sank, selling, but... He sighed, rubbing his temples. You think I don't know that? She exclaimed, surprise mixing with indignation. You can't. What about the chickens? Kids grow up and move away. Most people don't care about farms anymore. They want convenience, not home-cooked meals, he said, bitterness creeping into his voice. Mia said, her mind racing. What if we hold a community day? Invite everyone to come and see what it's like to live here. He turned to her, skepticism painted across his face. With determination, she nodded. Yes, we can show them the joy of being here, how connected we can be to where our food comes from. She watched as hope flickered in Mr. Dawson's eyes, but the doubts lingered. It would take a lot of work, Mia. I can help. I'll rally my friends and family. We can get the word out, she urged, her excitement infectious. They spent the next few weeks planning, mobilizing the small community to come together. Mia reached out to schools, neighbors, and friends, sharing the vision of a day filled with farm activities, laughter, and food. On the day of the event, the air buzzed with anticipation. Children ran about, their laughter mixing with the soft clucks of the hens. As families arrived, Mia's heart swelled with pride. When Mr. Dawson saw the gathering crowd, he turned to Mia, a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. He exclaimed, shaking his head in disbelief. Together they led tour of the farm, introducing the kids to the chickens, letting them gather eggs, and sharing how care and love fostered growth. The town came alive with energy. People laughed, shared stories, and discovered the beauty of simple farming life. Later in the day, as the sun dipped lower and cast a golden light across the fields, families gathered around for a community meal. It was a potluck feast filled with homemade dishes, laughter echoing through the rows of tables. This feels like home, Mia said, glancing at Mr. Dawson, who wore a broad smile. Yes, it does, he agreed, looking around at the joyful faces. You did this, Mia. As they sat together, a sense of unity enveloped them. It wasn't just success over a single day, it was the strength of a community coming to life through Mia's efforts. But beneath the joy, an uncertain feeling lingered in her heart. What would happen after today? Would people truly come back, or would they forget once the meal was done? A few weeks later, just as Mia feared, the excitement faded. The farm returned to its quiet state. People would wave, but the hustle and bustle had vanished. One Saturday morning, she returned to the farm, feeling a weight settle in her chest. She found Mr. Dawson tending to the chickens, and the weariness in his eyes mirrored her own. Mia, he said, wiping the sweat from his brow. Do you remember how this all felt? Yes, and it was amazing, she replied, but I'm worried. He sighed deeply, looking out over the fields. People get busy with their lives and the world keeps moving. But as he turned away, a flutter of determination sparked in Mia's heart. What if we tried again, a harvest festival? Mr. Dawson raised an eyebrow, skeptical yet intrigued by her enthusiasm. And how do you propose we make it happen? I have ideas, she replied, energized. We can offer activities, games, and even more stories about the farm, how it was built. It was a risk, but the fire within her urged Mr. Dawson to follow her lead. Together they brainstormed and planned, hoping to reignite the fun and togetherness that had once blossomed on the farm. Days turned into weeks, and as autumn arrived, the harvest festival was set. Mia reached out to schools, designed flyers, and encouraged families to participate. Hope grew as excitement spread, their unity coming alive once more. The festival day burst bright with color, the air fragrant with autumn leaves. As families gathered in droves, laughter filled the grounds, the connection between the farm and the community rekindling. See, they came back, Mr. Dawson said, a proud smile stretching across his face. Mia beamed, soaking in the joy around her. As the festival unfolded, children chased after each other and parents joined in on games and activities. Families participated in hayrides and pumpkin carving, and for a moment the bond between human and land felt unbreakable. But as they prepared for the closing ceremony, a subtle attitude shifted. Mr. Dawson spotted a group of children gathered around a displeased parent, pointing at a sign advertising their products in the small market stand. "I'm not letting my kids eat farm eggs," the woman exclaimed, shaking her head. Mia felt her heart drop as she turned to Mr. Dawson, worry etched on her face. "Let it go," he said solemnly. But instead of yielding to despair, Mia felt a flicker of determination again. "No, we can't just let it slip away." In that moment, she drew upon her courage, gathering nearby children and adults. "Everyone, let's show them how we take care of our farm." The crowd followed her, moving toward the coop. As she introduced them to the hens and showcased how they collected the eggs, she shared stories about their care and diet. Mr. Dawson watched, impressed by her resolve and her innate gift for connecting with others. She asked, turning to Mr. Dawson, who nodded, pouring his support into her words. A sense of community enveloped them as people became invested in the moment, engaging with the animals and asking questions. They laughed, learned, and began to connect the dots between food and care. As the sun set, casting a warm, golden hue across the land, Mia felt a wave of hope wash over her. There was laughter again, a sense of shared joy, a reminder of what they had fought for. In the closing moments of the festival, as families gathered to celebrate the harvest, Mia took a moment to look around. Mr. Dawson stood by her side, a sense of pride etched across his features. "Mia," he said, turning to her, "you've gone above and beyond to save this place. Thank you for believing in me when I needed it most," she replied, feeling emotions swell. In that exchange, the weight of their journey bore down on them, a testament that began with a single moment of desperation. Each egg taken had transformed into a connection, a bond between people, land, and love. The farm was not just a space, it was a sanctuary for so many. As darkness descended, replaced by a soft blanket of stars overhead, Mia knew this was just the beginning. With courage and compassion, together she and Mr. Dawson had built something worthy of being cherished, a farm where dreams took root, and where each heartbeat resonated with the beauty of simple living. And as they stood looking out over the fields together, the past faded into the warmth of what was to come, an ongoing legacy crafted through care, resilience, and the strength of community. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a gentle glow over the grassy fields. Sarah crouched behind a cluster of bushes, peering through the leaves at the old red barn. Her heart raced as she prepared for what seemed like a heist. Today was the day she would finally get those eggs. The truth was, her family was struggling. They had barely enough food on the table, and breakfast often consisted of nothing more than stale bread and water. With her younger brother Clay depending on her, Sarah felt an immense responsibility to help. One simple omelet could brighten their day. With a deep breath, Sarah eased herself from the brush, her feet quietly padding across the soft earth. She scanned the yard once more, looking for any sign of Old Man Jenkins, the owner of the farm. He was known for being gruff, often seen barking at kids who dared to trespass. But she knew that if she could just get inside that barn and snatch a few eggs, a small act of defiance might transform into an act of love for her family. As she slipped through the creaking barn door, the smell of hay and chickens hit her like a warm wave. She felt a flutter of excitement. There they were, nestled in their straw-free perfect, warm eggs just waiting for her. She moved closer, heart thumping in her chest, hands trembling in anticipation. Just as she reached for the first egg, she heard a booming voice behind her. Sarah spun around, her stomach dropping. Old Man Jenkins stood in the doorway, arms crossed tightly, his expression full of disbelief and anger. Sarah stammered, realizing how weak her excuse sounded. "Just looking," he asked, stepping closer. "I wasn't going to take them forever, I just wanted to borrow a few. We're really hungry at home," she blurted out, desperation flooding her voice. Old Man Jenkins paused, eyebrows furrowing as he looked at her. She felt small under his gaze, but there was also a flicker of something else akin to understanding. He asked, voice steady but less harsh this time. "No, I thought if I could just make a nice meal, it would help my family feel better," Sarah confessed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Memories of her brother's sad face flashed through her mind, echoing the hunger and despair they were living with. The old man studied her for what felt like an eternity. Finally, he sighed, his shoulders sagging. "Well, you're right about one thing, times are tough." His hardened expression began to soften. Sarah's heart plummeted. "I didn't want to trouble you, I thought you'd never." Before she could finish, he cut her off. "I may be grumpy, but I'm not heartless." Sarah exclaimed. "Yeah, there's plenty to do." She asked, disbelief coloring her voice. "Yep, but you'd better be ready for some hard work." "I will." Her face lit up with a mix of hope and relief. "All right then," he replied, a spark of gentleness returning to his gaze. "Take those eggs, but be here tomorrow morning at the crack of dawn." With eggs nestled in her hands, Sarah felt a rush of triumph. What had started as desperation became an opportunity, a chance to mend her family's struggles. She dashed home, heart soaring, and that evening she prepared an omelet that her family savored as if it were a feast. The next morning came too quickly. Sarah awoke to the sound of birds chirping and a sense of purpose stirring in her bones. She dressed hastily and set off for the farm, eager to impress Old Man Jenkins. He was already waiting for her, his arms crossed as he leaned against the barn. "You made it on time, good," he remarked, the corners of his eyes crinkling slightly. "Of course," Sarah replied, excitement bubbling over. "Let's start with feeding the chickens," he instructed, leading her to the coop. As they worked together, filling feeders and scattering grains, Sarah felt a rhythm develop between them. Each clucking hen seemed to know she was a part of their world now. "You've got to handle them gently," Mr. Jenkins explained as they gathered eggs. "These girls are sensitive creatures." She listened intently, savoring the rich stories he shared of years spent tending the land. With every task, she felt her confidence grow. This was about more than just eggs. This was a life lesson wrapped in responsibility and care. But as the days turned into weeks, Sarah noticed a change in Old Man Jenkins. His gruff demeanor began to unravel, revealing a man filled with warmth and humor. They shared laughter, and she shared bits of her life too, her dreams and fears filling the air around them. He became more than just the curmudgeon she had expected. He became a mentor, each story and lesson drawing them closer. One warm afternoon, while they sorted through the eggs, Mr. Jenkins turned serious. "You know, I never thought I'd be running this farm alone. My wife used to help me with everything," he said quietly, the weight of his loneliness palpable in his voice. Sarah felt a pang of sympathy. "She passed several years ago," he replied, the sadness in his eyes reflecting a life filled with both love and loss. Suddenly, the horizon turned darker, clouds stretching across the sky. Sarah felt the air shift, as if the world around them mirrored Mr. Jenkins' somber mood. He continued, his voice steady. In that moment, Sarah understood. It wasn't just about the chickens or the eggs. This farm was a life force, a testament to those memories, both good and bad. She realized that they were both caretakers of something far larger than themselves. As the seasons changed, the farm continued to flourish under their care. More people from the town began to visit, drawn by the sense of community they had forged. Sarah took pride in her work, feeling rooted in the rhythm of the land. Every Saturday she'd arrive to help, watching the sun rise and transform the world around her. But then, one Saturday, the ground beneath her feet seemed to shift. As she arrived at the farm, she spotted a thin man speaking with Mr. Jenkins, his hands animated, a proposal written on his face. Sarah asked, her stomach knotting with unease. Mr. Jenkins looked troubled as he turned toward her. "This is Mr. Thompson," he said, gesturing to the man. Sarah's heart raced, panic coursing through her veins. "You can't sell it." Mr. Thompson glanced at her, eyebrows raised. "This place has its time," he said. Old Man Jenkins would be better off accepting a reasonable offer. Sarah shouted, voice trembling with desperation. "You can't just sell it." Old Man Jenkins put a hand on Sarah's shoulder, keeping her calm. "I appreciate your passion, Sarah, but it's not that simple." Mr. Thompson stepped forward. "Think of the opportunities you could have." Sarah's stomach twisted at the thought. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath her, threatening to swallow everything she'd worked for. "What about the community? Goodwill doesn't pay the bills," Mr. Thompson replied, folding his arms. In that moment, something ignited within Sarah. "Let me prove it," she said, voice steadier than she felt. "Let us hold a community event, an autumn festival. Let's show everyone how much this farm means to us." Old Man Jenkins looked at her with surprise, but nodded slowly. "If this is something you truly want, I'll support you," he said, a hint of admiration in his eyes. Mr. Thompson rolled his eyes but shrugged. "Fine, one festival." With that, Sarah felt the weight of the world shift back onto her shoulders. She had a chance, but it wouldn't be easy. As soon as the meeting ended, she rallied her friends and family to help spread the word. Flyers were handed out, and the town buzzed with the news of the upcoming autumn festival. Finally, the day arrived, but the weather seemed to mimic the tension of the previous meeting. Dark clouds loomed, casting a chill over the field as Sarah set up booths and games. The atmosphere crackled with uncertainty, and with every gust of wind, anxiety clawed at her heart. But as the clock struck noon, people began to trickle in. At first, it was just a few families, but slowly the crowd began to swell. Laughter and chatter filled the air, a balm for her anxious spirit. She watched as the children ran toward the chickens, eager to gather eggs while laughter echoed around her. As the sun managed to break through the clouds, a feeling of hope kindled within her. It felt like the farm was breathing again, alive in a way it hadn't been before. But halfway through the day, as they prepared for the closing ceremony, a confrontation erupted. Mia spotted Mr. Thompson arguing with several townspeople, claiming they had wasted their time. He yelled. Determination surged through Sarah as she stepped forward, heart pounding. "No, we're not just wasting our time." The murmurs and laughter faded, all eyes on her. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. It's not just about the land, it's about the connections we build here. A few parents nodded, their gazes shifting from Mr. Thompson to her. The tide seemed to change, creating a ripple through the crowd. She felt emboldened and her voice grew stronger. Mr. Thompson opened his mouth to retort, but Sarah's words rang through the crowd, gathering momentum like a summer storm. As the sun slipped lower in the sky, the atmosphere shifted again, a palpable energy connecting everyone present. They began to talk among themselves, voices rising in excitement and agreement. Sarah felt a surge of hope, realizing that they were rallying together. The tide had indeed turned, and now they faced a common enemy, a man like Mr. Thompson whose vision didn't align with the heart of the community. But just as she thought they turned the tide, a sudden loud crash echoed behind them. Fear shot through Sarah as she turned, her heart racing once more. A pile of crates stacked near the barn had toppled over unexpectedly, sending eggs rolling everywhere, splattering against the ground. Gasps rippled through the crowd, their collective hope threatening to crumble like fragile shells. In that moment, trapped between chaos and determination, Sarah felt invigorated. She turned to face Mr. Thompson and the concerned townsfolk, a fire igniting in her eyes. "Let's fix this." Just as the crowd began to rally again, Mr. Thompson stepped forward. And with that, amidst the chaos, Sarah stood her ground, heart pounding in her chest, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. This was her moment. She could either let the fear consume her or rise to the occasion, not just for the farm, but for the community she had woven together. With determination flooding her, she took a deep breath, staring into the uncertain horizon ahead. Would this festival be the climax of their fight or the beginning of something even greater? The answer hung in the balance, as delicate as the eggs that had just fallen, waiting for her to make the next move.